Om Shanti. This is Andrew from Inner Space, Romford in England, and I felt inspired this morning to talk about this aspect of what goes round comes round, and it's quite appropriate really for the sign of our times, is that there's a major part of us that in some cases we make everything that seems very dramatic, very small, or almost getting it into the terms of insignificant, so that you're actually not being disempowered by anything that's going on. On the other side, there are lots and lots of people in the world that see things as huge, even though they might be quite small. And I think it's been going on for centuries now, really, whereby if a person's problems were magnified, they would be the worst problems in the world until something else comes along which takes its place, basically, which is apparently more detrimental, more energy sapping, more destructive. And it's a perspective that you see things through. Obviously, we all want the same things in life, in the sense of these commodities of happiness, and we want our mind to feel a sense of freedom in whatever comes our way, would hopefully be good. Of course, when bad things happen, then that's out of sync. So, why is this happening to me? Why my luck? Why my misfortune kicks in? And in some situations, people actually live with this cloud above their heads, where they carry this misfortune with them, and their mood remains the same the whole day. And sometimes they'll wake up with the same problems, and it's almost like you're relying on time to heal the self, to allow us to overcome things, and yet really time is a man-made thing, and so we shouldn't be in bondage, ruled by its structure. It's been created because you're actually trying to become more and more light about things, rather than wait for things to finish before you become light. And the lighter, or the tendency to be light about things, coaxes more lightness as well. So people, not everyone like this concept, because they say that you should take things more seriously, but you're still dealing with situations, but you're not becoming so serious. The word silly ass is quite appropriate, really, when I've taken things too seriously, and I realise in hindsight that it was unnecessary, that I was a bit of a silly ass to carry the burden, because asses, they carry the burden like donkeys carry the burden. And so one has to start making light of things rather than making things heavy, because things are happening as a result of people's actions from their past. Their past creates their present, and the present creates the future. So we're our own authors, really. What's going to happen to me is reliant on how I respond to things that are going on in the present and things that are coming from my past. Two things to take on board there is situations that happen and the personality that I've developed, whether it be being over dramatic, whether it be being light and carefree about things, but caring in the sense of these things need to be dealt with. So what people did believe, or do believe in their millions, is that God gives us these tests and God gives us all these situations and circumstances, and they say things like God willing and God moves in mysterious ways. But on the other side, people believe as you sow, so shall you reap, or for every action that performed, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So there's a kind of a lack of correct information going on there, is that whatever happens to you in your life, if God was doing that to you, then he would also be open to the law of karma, or the law of action and reaction. He would be imposing something of a negative nature, and so something negative would happen to him. Plus the fact he hasn't got that inside of him, whereby, even your own physical mother and father wouldn't impose such traps on you unless they don't like you at all and don't consider you to be a worthy child. They may do that, but we're talking about the spiritual mother and father. The one that's the physical mother and father's remember when they're also in bad shape, or where situations are too big for them to handle. So all these things that they call godly calamities, well, he doesn't throw asteroids at the earth. He doesn't blow the roofs of houses. These are all a reaction to what's going on in the human nature. So Mother Nature responds to human nature, and unless it is transformed, unless it is changed at source, which is your thoughts, then it can't possibly change in the outside world. Thoughts are your foundation for action. You can't have an action without a thought. So the thought is the seed of the action. Seed doesn't mean, the thought doesn't mean I get a bad return for that. So if I'm thinking on a negative level about someone or people or government or religion, I'm just creating a bad vibration in the atmosphere. But it's when I bring those things into the action that it becomes open to fortune or misfortune, depending on what it is. If there's something that's not coming my way in the present time, then I haven't earned it in my past time. It may come to someone else that's earned it, but won't come here, or it may come here, but it's not there. Because it's there. It's not in their fortune because they haven't written it in, they haven't created it in their past. So really the only servants we are, if I can use that word, is that we're servants of our own past actions, servants of our own present nature, servants of our own present attitudes, servants of our own possessiveness and ownership. There we're in servitude to those, and they all render the mind to be helpless. So when they all fall apart at the seams, they pull the mind because I gave it permission. So it's my action that took place that allowed them that ownership to leave me in servitude. So when a thought comes into action and it's a bad action, then I've given sorrow, so I will also be prone to taking sorrow. If I've given happiness when people have been giving me sorrow, or I remain neutral to their sorrow, whereby I didn't take it even though it was being offered, then I'm more likely to receive happiness from others. There's a kind of an ironic law that goes on, is that if you desire respect and name, fame, position, and that's your way of getting self-worth, then it will keep running away from me. But if I build up a momentum of good thoughts about my own self, then that builds my self-worth. And if I ignore all the praises that come my way, all the fame and applause, and the audience are enamoured by me at times, then when I don't accept that, so I'm moving away from fame and defamation. And by doing that, by becoming neutral to that and just giving happiness to others, giving love to others, giving respect to others, even though they may not respect me in the same way, I will win their respect. This is an interesting aspect of the law of karma, is that the human consciousness has become in debt to its own mistakes that it's made. They thought that God did all of these things, give them the good or bad. So it was more to do really with how much of a burden on your mind you keep the misfortune that's going on. So there's two aspects of this really. There's the things that happen as a fortune or misfortune coming from my past, and there's also what I do with it, because I can actually verbalize it. I could share my sorrow with others, which is giving sorrow. I could share my traumas with others, which is sharing sorrow, and I'm creating more and more sorrow. And if they pass that negative, if I talk about you in a negative way and they pass that on, then the account is also with me, because I initiated it. I didn't need to let them know what I know. So, who's ever creating those seeds, which is quite rampant in our society. This is a bigger disease than coronavirus will ever be, and suggests that there could be something coming after the coronavirus if this negativity is being spread, this gloom and doom being spread. As soon as bad things happen, A tells B, B tells C, A gets a partial fruit of that because they provided the bullets for the gun or the money for the bullets for the gun. And so, wherever you use your money, if it's to create negative karma, if you're buying meat, then the account is still with you, an account of sorrow that will come your way because you've been a part of giving sorrow. So it's basically what goes round comes round. And people normally say this as in a sense of, they say it to others where they talk about someone that's done them a bad deed. And they said, well, what goes round comes round, but they don't realise that it's just come round. So it's just come back. So what goes out is like a boomerang, and eventually it will find its way back. Quite an interesting aspect from the point of view of the self is that there's not a single bad action under the influence of lust, anger, ego, greed, attachment. There's not a single bad action that you can perform without using your sense organs, the sense organs of the body: eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and touch. So these 5 sense organs are the biggest account that the human soul will have, and that's why the body, the sense organs aren't always, sometimes some senses are missing altogether, and then some senses are defective early in life because we've used those in past bodies, or this body can be past lives or this life. We carry that with us. So it doesn't really matter how bad someone's return of negative karma is, it's how they deal with it in the present, because the present creates the future. So actions that performed under the influence of matter consciousness means I'm being controlled, and the sense organs are matter. So therefore it's quite possible that by learning soul consciousness I could be in a complete state of rest here while I'm using the sense organs like my puppet. So excuse me. So I'm using the sense organs but without being under the influence of the sense organs. So therefore I'm creating good karma because I am good. You are good. Everyone is good, but they're not necessarily so conscious. So it's like good people acting under the influence of something bad. When I'm aware of myself as the good, which is what the soul is, good, as kind, which is what the soul is, kindness itself. But it doesn't have particular favourites, this kind or the other kind. It means being kind. When I'm aware of I'm using my mouth, I'm talking to you, I'm projecting this to you, and I'm not under the influence of the senses, then if I don't like what I say, then it must be because I'm influenced by the eyes. If I don't like what someone says, it must be I'm influenced by the ears. So it means whenever you're not under the influence of the sense organs, but you're still talking, listening, seeing, but you're not affected because you're aware of who you are. It's quite a powerful thing to know, really, not just knowing as an information, but it's quite a powerful thing to be who you are using the physical sense organs, not the physical sense organs influencing the self. We call this self-sovereignty. So basically you get self-sovereignty whereby you become stable in your own inner peace and inner space, inner love, inner kindness, inner generosity, and there's no monitoring of where it goes, who it goes to, what they thought of what I gave them, because that comes, it doesn't matter about what they think, it comes for the fact that if I'm influenced by what I've given because of the way I see, I'm already caught up in the senses of the body. And I make all of my karmic accounts, not most, all of my karmic accounts through my physical sense organs, because I'm a being in a human form. So the form, how I actually use that form, is something that was new to me in 1983, and to this day I'm still learning the art of being soul conscious, whereby I'm actually giving but not monitoring who I'm giving it to, why I'm giving it to them, and all those things that are associated with influence. So you actually are returning to your true self, and it just needs a great deal of attention and awareness, really. As soon as I put my attention aside, then I'll find that I get tested, whereas there's a difference between the test and the feeling of the test. The tests go on anyway. The feelings of the tests can change. So there's the feeling of no relationship with the tests, whereas when I feel under duress, then I feel that I'm being tested by other people, what they do, what they say. And it really doesn't have much to do with what they say or what they do, because they're meant to act like that anyway. But it's how much I'm influenced by my eyes and my ears. And then there's another aspect of that, in which case I would remember or be memorizing what they did in the past, and then the past invades the present. But if I'm being myself in the present, then I'm being influential over the senses, so I'm giving of my best, because the soul is king. The soul is the best. You're the best there can possibly be, but when you're under the influence of what's going on, what's not going on, what should go on, and then we spread that to others, then that becomes the dis-ease of the air. It goes into the atmosphere, and we charge the atmosphere, and then what goes round comes round. So we're living in a negative vibration, a negative atmosphere. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a little sign up in your house saying, no negative thoughts, no negative feelings in this house, please. Please do not bring a bad atmosphere into a good atmosphere. Add to a good atmosphere, create a good atmosphere, and then when you sit with your thoughts, problems will come and problems will go easily, whereas they tend to stay in a negative vibration because they've got a place to live and a place to breed. But a positive vibration destroys negative vibrations that come in. But you're just actually putting up that sign so that other people can understand what they should be doing in their household. Actually, a positive atmosphere in the truest sense of the word, which is a soul-conscious atmosphere, a very positive, powerful atmosphere, cannot be touched by a negative atmosphere. You'd have to have a lot of people over a long period of time living in that place. Normally the householder is themselves quite negative, and the children pick that up, the spouse picks that up, they bond, they do the same thing, they add to the atmosphere, and then the mind gets absorbed. We sleep in that atmosphere, then the TV goes on and your emotions dance to the TV, which is why they call cinema the mother of sin, because it adds to that negative vibration. And you can always tell a house that hasn't got a television and a house that has got a television, nothing to do with the television, that's just a program, but it's actually programming and reprogramming the emotions of the mind. So be careful what you read, be careful what you watch, be careful what you think, and you wouldn't have to be careful at all if you were just yourself, soul conscious. If there's no food, there's no money, then your soul consciousness, your state of consciousness will invoke it, invite it, and it will come your way. So it isn't necessary for there to be poverty and starvation if people didn't think the way they think. There was an interesting subject that came up a while ago where this man, he was asking this Raj Yogi a question, and his question was, what's the matter with women? And the Raj Yogi said, what do you mean, what's the matter with women? He said, well, I've been married 4 times and I've just split up with my present girlfriend, and well, what's the matter with women? So the Raj Yogi laughed and said, if something keeps repeating on you again and again, then there's something wrong with your own consciousness. It's nothing to do with women, it's nothing to do with races, it's nothing to do with religious, it's to do with a person's own consciousness. They're creating that cycle of events. They're not caught in that cycle, they're actually creating it, invoking it, inviting it, and manifesting it in their belief system, that they believe they're just unlucky and people are like that. Not true. People are like that in a person's mind. There's no people like that unless they're in my mind. Actually, if people didn't have thoughts on any level of murder or rape or theft, then, and I'm talking about everyone, if everyone didn't have those thoughts in their mind, then they would vanish from the face of the earth, because there's nothing to invite them, to manifest them. People's mindsets would change. But hey ho, that's what the drama is. So when people say what goes round comes round, it in actual fact has come round. So we have to be very aware of what's in situ at the present time, whether it be a lack of anything, it's to do with a lack of our own thought processes being delivered by a faulty consciousness. A faulty consciousness is a wrong consciousness. An impure consciousness is body consciousness. So whatever you do from that will have a limited return, but have a bad and unhappy ending, because where body consciousness is breeding, it gives strength to all the weaknesses, whether it be lust, anger, ego, greed, attachment, envy, jealousy, making excuses, carelessness, laziness. They're the main 10 vices that the human soul is carrying because of their faulty consciousness. So there's no energy. They have to sleep so much to regain their energy, because they're not creating energy from who and what they are. So I hope this has helped someone somewhere. 1 in a million, that's enough. Doesn't need a million thumbs up. It just needs that one person to take something that's advantageous to their, that will help them progress. The magical thing about this is that whatever you don't know, you're not meant to know, and whatever you do know, you're meant to know. So you don't have to worry about what you forget and what you remember. You just need to have the thing that touches your heart is the thing that's come round. What goes round comes round, and it's come round for a reason. That's because of what you need at that time. So if life is repeating on you in a certain pattern of events, and we think we're trapped in that vicious cycle, it's got nothing to do with being trapped in a vicious cycle. It's something that's being put out that's of a negative from my consciousness, and I haven't realized. Yeah. So don't get perturbed by that, because sometimes it's not the time to realize it. You know, when the time's right, that will be the right time. Every seed sows in its own time. So don't worry about if you need to know something that you need to know. You don't. It will be revealed to you in the right time, in the right way, because you're great and your original nature is great, and it will always attract something great. So we do some meditation to finish off with. Enjoy your day. So I set all my thoughts of the role of the body, of the situations of the world, the circumstances of the world. I set them all aside because I now have to be myself, to be aware of the self that is the user and the author of the external world. I dwell in a very safe place between myself and the sense organs of my body is my inner space. Anything outside of the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears and touch is the outer space. It is out of bounds. I'm not processing it. I'm processing this space between myself, the being of light, the being of peace, the being of love, within this physical body, into my space of light, and that travels itself outside my body in all four directions, creating an atmosphere that is electrically charged with peace, with power, with love. This is an atmosphere of self-respect, and when others come into the atmosphere, the orb of light around me, they will naturally feel respected and respectful. The energy is energy that can transform the world, because we created the world. We are the authors, the fortune writers, the script writers of the world's destiny. And as I spread my light, I practice being detached more and more, deeper and deeper from the physical form, and my light becomes stronger, brighter, more potent, more effective, and the effect that I'm sending, like the sun spreads sunlight in all four directions, I become aware that I am a master sun, a master light and might house. I watch my vibrations encircling the world and everyone and anyone that no one cares about feels cared for, feels lighter, more peaceful, less affected, more effective, giving the world true self-worth and decimating the ego. Om Shanti.